Welcome to part 2 of how to prepare financial statements on MyEasyFs Financials.
Alright, what else do I need here? So for example, now I'm going to bring stuff from the trial balance groups. Okay, so I'll just explain the trial balance groups as well. Alright, so now this is the form which actually brings all your groups to basically bring it to your fingertips so that you can easily apply it. Now this tab here brings you the consolidated, this tab brings you the individual entity, this tab brings you the detailed trial balance, and that's every single account. Alright, so you can filter it, say, but now this one has only one trial balance. It doesn't have any trial balances in this entity, so it's a single entity financials. That's the other trial balance, which is the main trial balance which I'm utilizing. Okay, so yeah, so this will be account descriptions. I mean, I have not utilized the accounts descriptions. Yes, so that's it. So that's the account, and that's the code which I've given for the entity. You can there are other filters that you can do to that. For example, if I want to see only revenue accounts, those are the revenue accounts. If I want to see expenses, I can see expenses. So you can utilize this. A word of caution that if you do utilize this on a particular statement, that statement is only relevant for that entity, for that those trial balances of that entity. You can't utilize anything created using this as a template, because other than if you have another entity that has identical accounts numbers. Alright, so just bear that in mind. I personally don't use this, but look, if the level of detail that you need on a particular statement is so great, and say you have like something like maybe 300 accounts which you want to put on individually onto your statement, it sort of doesn't make sense for you to go and create 300 groups so that you can use the groups and put it there. And what's the use of creating 300 groups that are all going to just hold one account? Yeah, so then in that case it might make sense for you to put it here. Personally, I think that's more like management accounting. I mean, for annual financial statements, it's always groups. I would always use groups, okay? But I would just say this, that even if it's going to be one account, if you're going to be using the groups, consider whether you really need to use this. I mean, there might be some minute reason you might actually want to still use these, right? So I'll leave that up to you, but personally, how I do it is, if I'm going to be preparing using a lot of detail and groups are not there, I might still do the higher level groups so that I can sort of filter it like this way. It does help to have the groups so that even though I'm going to be sort of linking account by account, the groups do help me to sort of narrow down the items, and it also helps me to just run the summary statement and see whether they reconcile and gives me the totals and stuff that I am looking to get before I go about doing all the details and sort of creating the statements to that level of detail. Alright, so yes, so if I'm using the individual accounts, I normally don't use the groups too much on the statement. But if I am using the groups, I generally try to not use the detailed trial balances, because it's sort of an in-between thing, where you have some are linked to groups, some are linked to accounts. Then you just lose total track of what you're doing. Alright, so that's just my personal preference, but yeah, it's up to you. And in here, on each of these tabs, you will also have the trial balance, which is basically trial balance, and you'll have your cash flow trial balance, which has incorporated the cash flow adjustments, okay, at the trial balance level. Here also you will have, for example, let me just select a group. I'm going to select group 1. So this is the higher level group. You'll have the trial balance, and you'll have the cash flow at a consolidated level, which means it takes into consideration the consolidated cash flow adjustments you've done. And here you'll have, so I'm going to just select the first entity, where the second entity does not have any data, and say group 1. So likewise you'll have the cash flow, and here generally if you're doing a 2-column statement, meaning you're not going to be showing much of the parent entity, I just tend to use the consolidated. So if you're doing a single entity, I just use the consolidated because the consolidated figure and the entity figures are going to be the same. Okay, it's the simple. You use it, and if you need later on to just bring in another entity and consolidate it, it's easy. You've already used consolidated figures. Okay, so which are the same. It will only change when you import in another trial balance, for example, and say, okay, that's a new entity. The entity figures are still handy when you're doing consolidation, so you can actually show the parent entity figures, and you have the entire parent entities figures which are not impacted by any of the elimination entries, so which is good. Alright, so that's that. I mean, you have all the groups here. Okay, you can select all the groups. Now as you can see, it's selecting it like this. It's crazy. If you go to this level, for example, there is 151. You're not going to be scrolling to 151, so you'd use the filters always, right? So for example, if I want to see revenue, I'll say revenue. Okay, and yep, you can see the revenue here. So if I want to filter, say, revenue down further, there we go. Alright, so yeah, so you can see how we're actually going filtering it. Okay, so it's pretty quick to actually create a statement on your revenue. You know, I just selected grant revenue. So if you're doing a note on grant revenue and breaking it down further, you have all your accounts, or the groups rather, that you need. Okay, so that's how you'd go about it, right? And how you would filter. And as you can see, as you filter it, it sort of puts it there, you know. And as you move your filter out of it, it sort of clears it out as well. Okay, you could sort of filter it to the next level, and if you maybe go to the next level, you could try and clear this out so that you can see everything under revenue. So that's all the revenue in all the groups. You could do that. I can't see why, but you might want to do something like that, but that's up to you. But you normally filter it, right? So to simplify it. Alright, so now I'm going to look at just what I'm doing here. We're looking at just doing this summary, right? So what you do is, say, for example, I want to get the revenue and the expense. I'll just do that. Alright, so I say revenue has to come to this cell. As you can see, cell is sort of highlighted here. That's the cell. So revenue there, and I'm just going to put the expenses just below that. And then, oh, look what I've done. I've actually, let me just close this. I've actually put the year on the note here. It actually needs to be moved that side. Okay, so I'm going to move this one to C, this one to B. Unfortunately, you can't move this one, so I'm going to just have to delete that and just put it back again. So let's go down. So that's 5. I need to put the 2015 here. And I need a dollar sign. Alright. Sorry for that. I just didn't notice that when I was demonstrating it. Now what we're doing, we're putting in information from the trial balance. So we went there. I'm just doing the high level. So right. Incidentally, I mean, when I'm preparing the financial statements using the software, you see there's a few pop-up screens. And if you do have 2 screens which you work with, it does make it so much more easier. I mean, I'm just demonstrating it on one screen, but usually when I do tend to work and prepare stuff like this, I tend to use 2 screens. It makes a world of difference, especially as there's so many pop-up forms which are needed to prepare the statements and stuff like that way. The only reason there's pop-up forms is there's a lot of information, and one screen cannot handle it. Generally, I mean, you can handle it on one screen. I'm just exaggerating a little bit, but if you want to be able to work with it sort of seamlessly two screens are handy. I mean, if you're just doing the annual statement like this way, one screen is enough, because as you can see, you can just place it on the side here and just apply it. But if you're doing some sort of management accounting and going all the way up to here, say up to Q for example, then you'll have to keep moving this around and then selecting it and moving it again and then selecting what you need, so there'll be a lot of moving the pop-up screen around. There'll be a lot of it, so that could just waste a bit of time if that's the case. Okay, so let me just put the figures in now. Putting that one, putting that one, and putting that figure. As you can see, they're negatives. I don't like it negatives. Alright, so I'll just ignore it for now and just add these items in as well. So I've added those in. Okay, so I'm going to close that now. First thing I don't like this. I'm going to change that to become positive. So I put the tick. You notice nothing's happened here yet. So this normally recalculates it. It doesn't recalculate as soon as you tap it. If you don't recalculate it, you don't have to worry. It'll still recalculate when you prepare the statement. So I'm just going to prepare the statement here and just show you that, even though it's not showing here, it'll actually take its effect when you're doing your statements. As you can see, it's done it, right? And it's prepared the statement, so there's no risk of error. As you can see, the formatting is pretty bad. That's because we did not set the formatting. Alright, I'm just at this moment just demonstrating how you'd go about putting the data onto the sheet. Alright, the next thing what we need is some sort of a total here, because we just want to arrive at our profit figure, right? So let's put a dynamic field here. So as you can see, it's somewhat in order, so I want some dynamic field. So I want, now this you can create this. What this does is, like I said, it looks at the data from A to Q. It says here what it does, and it puts it depending on whether the data is a positive, whether it's negative, or whether you have both positive and negative. Zeros are ignored. If it's a 0, it is just basically positive. Alright, there is no positive or negative if it's a 0. It's just positive there. Alright, and what you're saying is what you would like to appear here if it's a positive, and what you would like to appear if it's a negative. Alright, so now I'm just going to need profits. Also, this is just a filter. Alright, so profit or loss. So this is like I also mentioned, that this is the only area where you can actually create this as well. There's no separate area. The reason that you can create it is it's not complex to create, or there's no complexity, just entering what you want to appear when. You can also set it up whether you want the evaluation of the row as to whether it's a positive or negative, whether you want it to be on the next row. Never had to use this as well. Feature is there. Alright, so what I want to say is, okay, you want to say, what do we have for profit? Yeah, you can say profit for the year, or loss for the year, or profit or loss for the year. So I'm going to just use that one, okay, because that's basically what I say, it's for the year. So there we go. Okay, I got that in. Alright, now let me get the totals. Okay, numbering, yeah, we're not going to link it to anything here. So this numbers here is actually if you're going to link this to a particular number. Alright, say, I think if you, for example, you note, if your revenue note is, say, note 4, I think it's note 4, there we go. Alright, so I'm going to select the main number. So what's the difference between the main number and the just a number? Okay, the full number, here you go, there's full number on number. So the main difference is that the main number is the higher number. This has the full number. So for example, it makes no difference at this level, but when you go to the next level, it makes a difference. So you can link it to, say, for example, if you're linking it to, say, 2, for example, you can link it to 2A. So that is very specific. You're going to 2A, which is a particular type of item. Or if you can link it to 2, which is the overall item of your note. Okay, and you might have further breakdowns. I don't think this does have further breakdowns. I think tax had maybe further breakdowns. Let me scroll down here. It'll show me if there's something with a further breakdown. Oh, there was one there. There you go. Alright, so here you could say 15A1. That's very specifically as well. Okay, so there's one more further breakdown there. Okay, so that's how this works. There are 4 levels. Never gone to 4th level. It's there. Never had to use it. Alright, so generally 3 levels is the max. It's a stretch even to use the 3rd level. There's hardly any there, as you can see when I'm scrolling. 2nd level definitely yes, because like, for example, this one has like heaps, because this is the policies. Yeah, so there's heaps there, right? So now you can this is not where you edit it, you edit the note numbers here. Alright, so just letting you know that. So this is if you need to link it to something. So I'm just going to link this to the revenue one. I'm just putting note 4. Alright, so that's linked there. So if you were to change the note numbers, it'll change right throughout the statement. Okay, and on the Word document as well when you do your updates. Right, now I'm going to add this total. Okay, so what do I need here? Now this is where we're going to set the total as it's just showing you. So I'm going to need this one. I'm going to need this, and I want the top one. It sort of arranges in the order of what the cell number is as well. So I'm going to need this minus the expenditure. So I'm going to make it at a minus. Alright, as you can see, it's sort of got the figure there already. Now there are 2 ways you can go to the next one and add the next column. So I'm going to do this with while keeping this open. So and I want to create a new total here. So what you can do is you can say create new total here. Alright, so then it clears it off, which means this is going to be a new total. Okay, so then I need that one and that one, and I'm going to make this a negative, and I'm going to close that. The other way now to create the next one is you just close it, click on the next cell, and you say create a total. Alright, now yeah, okay, so now I can just use the 2 cells that I need and just say that's negative. And say okay. Alright, now as you can see, as soon as you click onto this, it sort of highlights what is included in that total. Okay, so it does make it easy. I'm just going to open it up again. So I probably didn't mention, I mean, what you need to do is here. So basically you double click on what you need, and it sort of adds it to the totaling area. Okay, if you made a mistake, for example, if I add this one and that one and maybe that one, and say, oh, I didn't need this one, I can just delete it off that way, you know. Yep, I've taken that one off, and maybe I just wanted maybe that one. Okay, so that's how you go about doing this. Okay, so now I don't need this total, so if I just delete it from here, the total is taken off. Alright, so that's basically, so I mean, as you can see, this is actually the primary things you'll use when you're creating a statement. Right, now I'm also going to try and create a percentage here. So I'm going to do net profits here. So net profit percentage here. So now I've typed that in. Okay, just typed it in. As you can see, this highlights that that's a typed cell. Okay, so now let's see. So what do I need for a percentage? So I'm going to first click percentage, and like similar to totals, you can see set percent. So that's where it's going to do it. So if I close it, there's nothing there. I did set a percentage there. So I'm going to set percentage. The first thing you need to do is you need to click add, because we're going to add a percentage. So now this time you're committed to creating a percentage there. As you can see, this is the percentage formatting. I've said, okay, I want 1 decimal place, sorry, 2 decimal places, and I want it to be a percentage. If you take out percentage, what it does is it converts it into a number, a decimal number, and that's if you need to show like maybe dividends per share, for example, which may go into cents, and stuff like that. Generally, this statement does not handle decimal, it's not meant to calculate based on decimal points. As you can see, everything is in whole numbers. Okay, and that's built into the system, cannot be changed. The only thing you can do is you can display some decimal points if you need to for certain data, but you can't calculate. And once you display a decimal number, you can't reutilize the decimal number to do another calculation. So that's how it works. So you can calculate it, a figure that becomes a decimal, and then do another number within one particular total calculation, but you can't utilize a decimal which is on the statement to produce a formula, right? So, but you can do it within the formula itself by putting two figures, dividing it, and then getting a next figure impacted by that particular number. Alright, now what I'm going to do here is, so now I'm going to create this person. So the first cell is here. Alright, so I've selected that one, and I'm going to need profit figure. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this cell, and I'm going to divide it by the revenue. Okay, so as you can see, there's a 5% roughly, 5.5% on that, right? So you can make without any decimals, so it's 6% without the decimals. So it's just rounded it up, maybe put one decimal, 5.5. So it's up to you. That's just a bit of formatting, nothing special. You want it to be decimal points, 5.2 doesn't make sense, but so that's how you go creating a percentage. I'm not going to create all of them, it's just a waste of time, so for me to demonstrate that. So I think you get the idea. So close that, we're done with the percentage. Alright, so as you can see, it sort of all works out. I'm just going to override this so you can see how it things function. So I'm going to make this 1.5 million. So as you can see, it's an input cell, it's no longer linked. I've broken the link. Okay, so it's 1.5. Now as soon as you hit calculate, it's negative, profits adjusted, and the dynamic fields adjusted to profit or loss, because now we're making a loss in one of the years. Okay, so that's it when it comes to actually preparing a statement. That's all you need. Okay, and you can prepare almost any statement. Okay, and that gives you the figures. Now I'm just going to demonstrate the formatting, right? Alright, let me see, but what should I do here? Alright, the first thing I want to do is, okay, now here we got a table, right? And we have rows here which we are not using. Okay, generally if the rows are not being used, what I would do is I'll delete the rows because it just uses up unnecessary resources. Or if there's some calculations there which I need for this statement, but I don't want it to show, I'll just hide them. Okay, so I'm going to just hide it for this time being. It's just a couple of lines, it's not that there are a huge amount of resources, so just hiding it. And let's give it a bit of formatting. Right now I'm just going to utilize some of the formatting which is already there. Okay, if you know the format code which I sort of know, I can just select it from here. I try not to do too much of these formats because it becomes harder for you to select as to what one you want, so you just keep the formatting you want. But yeah, so that's one way of doing it. So I can just go and say, oh, this is a header, and I number it appropriately so it just comes up to what I want. So I just typed in H there, and it sort of comes up with the first one. So that's a header one. Okay, another way you can select it is you can actually just view it here. So now I want ones for the amounts, right? So if I say A is right on top, for example, I don't want to indent it as such. I forgot to put your header, so I'll just demonstrate that. So I forgot to put a line in here and say profit or loss, for example, or profit or loss summary. Say, so I wanted to say that's what it is. I say insert a row here, and there you go. I've inserted a row. So I can just call this profit or profit financial performance summary, financial performance. Okay, so I've just done that. And yeah, so I'm going to probably just get a header format as well. Okay, so H for header format, which that's my setting of code, so it will depend on how you go of setting. I'll use something very simple and very easy to pick when you're doing it. So, and I put 0 for the one I use most frequently, so that's the first one that pops up. So I was going to just demonstrate the other way you can do it. So I want to use the amount. I don't want any indent, and that's the format that I want. I want the note number to be in bold and centered, so that's the one I'm going to use. So what you do is you select the one which you want to use. So I want to use A1. Okay, so and when you double click it here, it sets it. Okay, now this is going to be a total. So if I say T here, for example, my totals, so my totals I was starting them on T, so, and I think I want to use this one. I don't want any indent, so I want to use this one. So I just click onto it so that I know it's selected, or the arrow shows that it's selected, and I just double click it there. And I need a percentage, so I go P. I have only one for percentage, so I just double click it there. Formatting done. I don't need to format a line that has no data on it. There's no formatting, so I can just leave that blank. Okay, now visibility. I want this to appear if there is data. I want this to appear if there is data. I want these to appear always. Yeah, I want these to appear always, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So it's very simple, you know. I just want that to appear if there's data. So it's not very complicated. Okay, so now let's have a look at what it looks like. Okay. Oh, much better statement. There we go. All right, so that's the statement. It could have been a little bit bigger, I guess. 16. I think I set it to 16. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't seem like it's going all the way to the end, is it? The table is going all the way to the end. So you could make it a little bit bigger, maybe 16.5 would look much better. Let's do that. So I'm going to make that 16.5. 16.5 is what I want. And there's a first statement, so I'm going to apply to that. So yeah, you can sort of, you know, get the formatting to look, I would say, work on the formatting on your first statement you're doing. Yeah, that looks a bit better, I think. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, work on formatting, get the table widths that you want and stuff like that. We'll get an understanding of that, and make sure that you consistently apply to all your statements. It does look professional if the statements have consistency. Try and keep the fonts consistent in terms. It would be good if I just indented this, right? Let's go back. Let's pick something with a little bit of an indent. I don't. So those amount ones weren't doing the trick for me. Let me see which one I should have maybe used. Yeah, 0.2. So that's probably a better. I'll use that one. So it's a 0.2 centimeter indent. All right, I got that up now. Yeah, let's have a look at how that looks. Yeah, that looks a bit better. It sort of shows that that's the group that makes this up. I know some people don't like this. Personal preference. Do it how you like it. Okay, so yeah, I personally like it. The numbers, as you can see, since I've used a number on my cells, has been the number formatting. It sort of aligns it perfectly. All the commas are aligned. Yeah, it does look a bit more professional now. Okay, so if I wanted, I could have actually maybe right aligned this. Some people like to right align it. I don't mind keeping it center. If your column widths are going to be very broad, maybe center. I think these are a little bit broad for the type of figures I'm working. If I was working with maybe billions of dollars, I would probably use this width. If not, I'm just using unnecessary space. But it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so you can become a little bit nitpicky when you're preparing your financial statements. That's why it's always good to get the bits and stuff you like sort of narrowed down, accepted by management, that they're happy with that formatting, and then go ahead with it. That way, you don't muck around, have to come back and muck around again and update your Word document. Not that it's difficult. I mean, look, if I didn't like this, I could just say, oh, I want this to be 2, maybe that's 2, and that's 2. I just made it a little bit smaller. It was going a little bit towards the side anyway. Okay, looks a bit better. Alright, so there you go. Okay, so that's just a simple statement, but it demonstrates the features that are there that you can utilize to create the statement. So that covers all of that, I think. Yes. Alright, good. Now the next part that I need to cover is this part. I think I did cover the statement area where we added that new statement. We did a bit of formatting. We reset this. This, as you can see, has changed to 6.2. I think 6.2 is probably the better size for that. There's a little bit of an indent with the table. Yeah, so that's basically covering all of these. There is this statement library. I'll see if there's time for me to cover this in this particular video. If not, I'll just give it its own video. Might justify actually having its own video. It's a very important feature. I might do that on a separate video because it does require a little bit of explaining and understanding when doing the templates. You have also a statement library. Like similar to this statement library, you have another number library where you can actually save your note numberings orders so that you can reuse them in other statements. But if you're just creating one statement, that's all you're doing. You don't need really a library, other than if you just want to store something for safekeeping in the library and then bring it back. Alright, so you can also you can export the list of, so you can see the list. What else is there here? I can't actually see anything else I need to explain here. So that's basically it. You can just add a new statement. We've done that. Clear the filters. If you filtered it and you say you don't want to filter, you can just clear the filter. So I'll close that down. Okay, I'm just going to move to I'll just move between these ones. So, or maybe I'll just go in order so that I don't miss anything. Okay, so word fields, for example. As you can see, there are 3 types of word fields. There is the input field, the combined field, and the linked fields. Alright. Now, input fields and combined fields can be utilized when creating the statement. You've seen that here. Alright. So there's the combined fields and the input fields which you can utilize and put them onto the statement. Alright. So close that word field. The linked fields are actually fields which link to specific data on your statement, and this data, these fields, you can utilize in addition to the input and combined fields. You can utilize all 3 of these fields on your Word document, which is very handy. So for example, if you have a loan account, you could link it to a loan balance and maybe make a statement about it. Say current year's loan is this amount. So it's pretty handy in that sense. You can just utilize those figures. The good thing about utilizing it by linking it this way is that if you pass a general journal or some sort of an adjustment, or bring in next year's trial balance, for example, it will update it on the Word document. Alright, so therefore keeping the statement you made on the Word document accurate. Okay, so you can add the current year and the prior year as a comparative, for example. Like I've done here, I brought in the results. Sorry, this is not the current year and prior year. Is it current year, prior? Yes, it's current year and prior year. So that's the profit and that's the prior year profit. I've converted them to be all positives. Even if it was a loss, it will come in as a positive. And then here what I've done is I linked to the dynamic field, which maybe I should just show you that. The P&L. So at the bottom here, what I've done is I first taken the figure from here and I've just identify whether is that particular figure a positive. If it's a positive, let me know then just state profit. If I've taken that figure down here and said if it's a negative, then let me know it's a loss. In this case both were positive, so it told me it's a profit. Then what I did is I linked to that figure here and I said to give me the absolute figure. So now that's the absolute figure, meaning that
irrespective of if it's a positive or a negative, it'll show as a positive figure.
so if you click onto a total which is already been created and you say total, it brings it up. So as you can see, I've selected the sign as being absolute. Okay, so in the absolute it just converts it. If it's a negative, it'll still convert it. Let me just demonstrate that. So if it's a negative amount like that, and if I create a total here and I link it to that, double clicking it, and I say I want the absolute. Okay, so as you can see, the absolute is a positive, right? Positive figure. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, so I was able to convert any negative figure to positive, because when you mention it on your statement, you never say that I had a profit of a negative amount. You'd say I had a loss, and you'd say the amount that you actually made a loss on. So it's linked to these. So one of the links from the word field being the linked fields. Yeah, so this one is linked to the dynamic field, and this is linked to the total of what I wanted to get. Okay, now let me just demonstrate how you go about linking a field there. So the first thing you need to do, I'm just going to go to my demo one again. Okay, and suppose I want to link to the net profit. So you need to have this statement open when you get it. Alright, so get into word field, and we want to do a linking of a field, but what we want to first do is we need to add one. Okay, so I'm just going to call this it current year in the percentage. The field name I'm going to use also, I'm going to call it maybe I should just call it the same, current year NP percentage. Okay, so that's it. Now I need to get this one linked, so I'm going to say link from statement, and this is what I want linked. So you just double click this and it converts it to a linked field, as you can see, and it tells you where it's linked to. Alright, now I clicked out, it's vanished because it's gone to the linked area. Alright, so that's the linked field. So I can get an order, say I want this to be number 10001. It sort of sets the order, or you can say sort again, it sort of sets the order, So yeah, so you created a link field, so you can utilize this on your Word document. Alright, so that's how it functions. Don't worry about this apostrophe. That will not appear on the statement when you're taking it out and when you're actually linking it. It's just initially when you link it to say that yeah, it's a text item, but it does not actually appear when you actually get it to the word fields. Alright, so that's it. So yeah, even here, if you notice that there's an apostrophe there, but if you look at the statement on the Word document, you can see there's no apostrophe there. The apostrophe indicates that it's text from this point on. It's not a figure. Alright, so it can't be reused in a calculation. So that's, I think, takes care of the word fields. Oh no, we did not do a combined field, so let's add a new one. And say if I've added a new one, so if I want to know what do I going to do, a combine field. So let's combine fields. So I could add some stuff together to make up a statement here. Alright, so suppose I would say, so I'll say I just say, for example, I'll say profit for the, and suppose you don't know what is going to be a year or what is going to be, so I'm going to use another item here. So I'm going to put for the year. Okay, so I click that one, is perfect for the year. So that's the statement that will come, and then I can maybe use it maybe for the year, say 2015. Okay, so I created a statement. So why would you do this? Well, when any of these input fields are changed, it updates everything else, for example. Now, so suppose now, as you can see, there is these years, right? But suppose that the years you are now, generally you can't, if you override it, this will get converted to a executed description profit for the year. Yeah, just give it a description. Okay, not that it makes any sense, but I'll just give it. So the benefit of using these combined fields and stuff, say, let me just demonstrate. So if I'm in the input field, and if I said the 3 years now which we're doing are not these years, so it's 2018 for example, that is, this one's 2017, and this one is 2016. So those are the 3 years we're doing. Alright, now if you come to combine field, you can see the years have changed. So that's the benefit of using it. So I only changed 3 figures, it's changed all of this. Alright, there's nothing that's linked on the statement. Okay, so it's changed all of that, so it's already updated. I get to the statement, and as soon as when it gets calculated, the years have changed. It's not only this statement, every statement has changed, as I've used these word fields on all the statements. It's not only these statements that have changed. If I've used the word fields on the Word document in other areas when I'm explaining things like, for example, profit for the year ended or whatever, and I've used the word field there, that'll change too. So it is a very powerful feature which enables you to make sure that the changes run right through the entire statement. And you don't need to worry whether you missed anything. The program takes care of it. Okay. Now the next thing is note numbers.
This is the end of the video for part 2. We'll be continuing the video on part 3.